This statement. It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the beloved death of her husband, His Royal Highness the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Good morning. Friday morning, just minutes ago, the UK Parliament was recalled to pay tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh. They will meet later today in a special session to honor the Prince. It's a live look outside Buckingham Palace where crowds of people have started to gather. There is a framed notice attached to the gate. It reads, "The royal family join with people around the world in mourning his loss."
About an hour away, crowds are also gathering outside Windsor Castle. Locals there are leaving bouquets of flowers at the palace entrance. Prince Philip's had a long history of health problems. In 2012, he was admitted to the hospital during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee with a bladder infection. He had surgery in 2013. In 2017, he retired from his royal duties, but would still occasionally step out to support the Queen for some big events. Philip spent a month in the hospital earlier this year before being released on March 16th to return to Windsor Castle, where he passed away.
Prince Philip saw active service during World War II. He joined the Royal Navy, where he served in the Indian Ocean and was promoted several times. In 1945, at the end of the war, he was in Tokyo Bay when the Japanese surrendered. He and Elizabeth were engaged 8 years after the war in 1947 and were married at Westminster Abbey. Just like the more recent royal weddings, it was a spectacle. Thousands of people lined the processional route and millions listened to the live radio broadcast. The Queen's wedding dress toured the country and the film of the wedding was watched by many thousands of people at cinemas across the country.
The honeymoon would not last long, though. With the death of King George in 1952, Elizabeth would become queen. From that moment on, he would be the Queen's consort, a title given to the official companion of the monarch. In that role, he would meet every post-war U.S. president apart from Donald Trump. He and the Queen were married for 74 years.
Major public figures are reacting to the news this morning. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson wrote this on Twitter: "We remember the Duke above all for his steadfast support for Her Majesty the Queen, not just as her consort by her side every day of her reign, but as her husband, has strength and stay of more than 70 years. And it is to Her Majesty and her family that our nation's thoughts must turn to today."
London's Mayor Sadiq Khan tweeted out a statement saying in part, quote, "Today we mourn the loss of an extraordinary man who devoted his life to public service and helping others. I extend my deepest sympathies to Her Majesty the Queen and the entire royal family at this sad time." Justin Welby, Archbishop of Canterbury, wrote in part, "On the occasions when I met him, I was always struck by his obvious joy at life, his inquiring mind, and his ability to communicate to people from every background and walk of life."
And the Scottish First Minister writes, "I am saddened by the news that the Duke of Edinburgh has died. I send my personal and deepest condolences." Meanwhile, because of Prince Philip's status, the events to follow his death are already largely planned. And preparing for his own funeral, the prince said he wanted no fuss.
While entitled to a full state funeral, the prince insisted he did not want to lie in state at Westminster Hall. It's thought that his body will lie at St. James's Palace instead. That's where Princess Diana lay for several days